Decoy effect. Picture yourself at the cinema, choosing between a small popcorn for $4 and a large one for $7. You're unsure which to pick until you notice a medium option priced at $6. Suddenly, the large popcorn seems like a bargain for just $1 more than the medium, making it a more appealing choice. This is a classic example of the decoy effect, where adding a less appealing third option influences your choice between the original two, making one option look more attractive. Social proof. We often look to others to guide our decisions. If many people are doing something, it seems like the right thing to do. Door-in-the-face technique. This technique starts with a big request, expecting a rejection, and follows it with a smaller ask, the one truly desired. For instance, if a friend asks you to help move all their belongings to a new place, a big request, you may refuse because it's too much work. Then, they ask if you could just help move a few boxes, a smaller request. In comparison, this feels more manageable, so you're more likely to say yes. Foot in the door technique. This is the opposite of the previous technique. Here, someone starts by asking a small favor, and after you agree, follows with a bigger request. Once you've said yes initially, it becomes harder to refuse the next ask. Mirroring. This is when you subtly mimic another person's body language or speech patterns, which can help create a feeling of connection between you. Labeling. Giving someone a positive label, like dedicated, often inspires them to live up to it, as they want to fulfill the role they've been assigned. Contrast principle. When two things are shown consecutively, their differences are magnified. For example, lifting a light object after a heavy one can make the lighter item feel even lighter than it is. Reciprocity. Reciprocity is an unspoken rule where if someone does you a favor, you feel compelled to return it. It's like a hidden balance that people subconsciously try to keep even. Authority. People tend to follow advice from someone they see as an expert or in a position of power. For instance, patients are more likely to trust a doctor's advice because of their expertise and authority in the medical field. Fear then relief technique. This technique works by creating a moment of fear or discomfort, followed by relief, which makes someone more inclined to agree to a request. The relief they feel makes them more likely to respond positively. Peak end rule. We tend to judge an experience by how it felt at its most intense moment, and its ending rather than averaging out every single moment of the experience. Zygarnic effect. This principle suggests that we're more likely to remember tasks we've left incomplete or interrupted than those we've finished, as incomplete tasks tend to stick in our minds longer. Halo effect. The halo effect is when we let one positive quality of a person or thing influence our overall impression of them. Commitment. Once we commit to doing something, we're more likely to follow through just to stay consistent with our promise, keeping up a reliable self-image. Paradox of choice. Having an overwhelming number of choices can make decision-making difficult. It's often easier to pick from a few options than from dozens. For example, with 50 ice cream flavors, it can be hard to pick one, but in a shop with just 5, you might quickly settle on chocolate. Anchoring. The first bit of information we receive about something can shape our views moving forward. For example, if you're shown an expensive phone first when shopping, you may assume the other options will also be pricey, even if they're not. Bystander effect. In crowded situations, people often assume someone else will help, so they do nothing. This is why, if you need assistance, it's best to ask someone directly rather than rely on the crowd. Liking. We're naturally drawn to people who are similar to us, who give us compliments, and who work with us towards shared goals. The ostrich effect. The ostrich effect happens when you avoid facing negative information or criticism, similar to how an ostrich hides by putting its head in the sand. For instance, you might avoid checking your bank account because you don't want to face how much you've spent. To combat this, make it a habit to assess your situation regularly, even if it's uncomfortable. The spotlight effect. The spotlight effect is the tendency to overestimate how much others notice your appearance, mistakes, or actions. To reduce this, remind yourself that most people are too preoccupied with their own concerns to pay attention to minor details about you. This can help ease anxiety and improve focus. Reciprocity. Reciprocity is when you feel compelled to return a favor when someone does something for you. For example, you might feel obligated to buy something after receiving a free sample. To avoid falling into this, recognize whether you're acting out of genuine desire or merely out of obligation. The self-serving bias. The self-serving bias occurs when you take credit for successes but blame external factors for failures. For instance, you might think that your victory was due to skill, while a loss was simply bad luck. To counter this, practice owning up to your actions, whether they result in success or failure. The contrast effect. The contrast effect is when your perception of something is influenced by what you've seen right before. For example, real estate agents might show you a rundown house first, so that the next house they show looks much better by comparison, making you like it more. Chauffeur knowledge. Chauffeur knowledge is when someone appears knowledgeable and confident, but lacks true expertise in a subject. They're similar to a parrot repeating memorized phrases without understanding. To spot these people, ask more in-depth questions, as they struggle to provide insightful answers. Difficulty in closing doors. This refers to the struggle of making decisions due to the fear of missing out on other opportunities. Imagine you're working on 3 different business ideas at once. Even though you know concentrating on one would be more productive, you hesitate to abandon the others, leading to mediocre or no progress across all 3. The solution is to focus on one task at a time. Negativity bias. Negativity bias is when you give more attention to negative experiences than positive ones. For example, you could receive 100 comments on a video, with 99 of them being positive, but you'll fixate on the single negative one. To overcome this, consciously shift your focus towards the positive and practice gratitude. The sunk cost fallacy. The sunk cost fallacy is when you continue doing something simply because you've already invested time, money, or effort in it, even when it's no longer the best choice. It's like finishing a bad meal just because you paid for it. To avoid this, focus on the best decision starting from today, considering future benefits rather than past investments. Confirmation bias. Confirmation bias happens when people focus only on information that supports what they already believe. For example, if you think your favorite sports team is the best, you'll notice their victories more than their losses. To counter this, seek out information that challenges your perspective. This ensures you make decisions based on all the facts, not just what fits your narrative. The bandwagon effect. The bandwagon effect is when you follow the crowd, like buying the latest phone just because everyone else has it, not because you truly need it. To avoid this, ask yourself why you're making the choice. Is it something you really want, or are you just going along with the trend? The gambler's fallacy. The gambler's fallacy occurs when you believe past events influence future outcomes, particularly in random situations. For example, thinking you're due for a win after losing several coin tosses. Remember that each event is independent in random scenarios. This way, you'll base your decisions on logic, not false patterns. Reactance bias. Reactance bias is when you want to do the opposite of what you're told because it feels like your freedom is being restricted. For example, not wanting to wear a seatbelt just because a sign says, "You must." To avoid this, focus on how the action benefits you, rather than just doing it because you're being told to. Survivorship bias. Survivorship bias occurs when you only notice the success stories and ignore the failures. For instance, thinking owning a business is all about wearing suits and sitting in fancy offices because that's what's shown in the media. You don't see the late nights, the risks, and the challenges behind the scenes. Before starting something new, ensure you research both sides of the story for a full picture. The unity principle. The unity principle suggests you're more likely to be persuaded by someone who feels like part of your group. For example, trusting a product more if the person selling it shares your background. To avoid this, base your choices on facts, not just who is presenting them. The ambiguity effect. The ambiguity effect is our tendency to shy away from unclear options, even if they might offer better results. For instance, ordering the same average dish at a restaurant instead of trying something new that you might love. Weigh the risks and rewards of uncertain choices. Taking a calculated risk can sometimes yield great benefits. The curse of knowledge. The curse of knowledge is when you forget what it was like not to know something, leading to poor communication. To avoid this, put yourself in the shoes of someone less experienced. Think about how you would explain it to your younger self who hasn't learned it yet. The endowment effect. The endowment effect is when you overvalue something simply because you own it. For example, holding on to old clothes you no longer wear, even though they're taking up space. To overcome this, try to view your belongings from an outsider's perspective. The IKEA effect. The IKEA effect refers to how people tend to value something more if they've invested effort into creating it, like assembling your own furniture. To avoid overestimating the worth of your work, seek feedback from others. This allows for a more objective evaluation of your efforts. The curse of specificity. The curse of specificity occurs when excessive detail makes something seem more convincing, even if the details aren't relevant. For instance, I could tell you it's 8:16 p.m. and I'm sitting in a cozy yellow chair at Starbucks, sipping a rich cappuccino while typing on my laptop. You might easily picture this scene, and it could sound convincing. But the truth is, I'm at home, distracted by the noise of my 5-year-old daughter playing nearby. The Dero effect. The Dero effect refers to the tendency to make additional purchases after acquiring something new, like buying a new outfit, and then feeling compelled to upgrade other things to match. To prevent this, be aware of how one purchase might affect your overall spending habits. The anchoring effect. The anchoring effect happens when your first impression or an initial number influences your future judgments. For example, seeing a $50 shirt might seem inexpensive after looking at a similar one priced at $200. To avoid this, always evaluate offers and choices on their own merits, not in comparison to what you saw first. The paradox of choice. The paradox of choice happens when having too many options makes decision-making more difficult. For example, browsing a menu with 50 dishes can feel overwhelming. To combat this, limit the number of options for yourself or others. If you're selling something, highlight a top recommendation to make decision-making easier. The framing effect. The framing effect occurs when your choices are influenced by how the information is presented. For instance, a doctor might tell you there's a 90% chance of survival, which feels more reassuring than hearing there's a 10% chance of death, though both are the same. Always consider information from different angles before making a decision. The end of history illusion. The end of history illusion is the belief that who you are now is who you'll always be. To challenge this, embrace the possibility of change. Acknowledge that your opinions, tastes, and preferences will evolve over time. The Pygmalion effect. The Pygmalion effect suggests that higher expectations can lead to improved performance. For example, aiming to reach a 1-year goal in just 3 months will boost your productivity. Consistency principle. The consistency principle is based on the desire to align with past actions or statements. For instance, if you tell your friends you're going to start working out regularly, you'll be more likely to follow through. Having someone hold you accountable can greatly improve your commitment to achieving your goals. Loss aversion. Loss aversion is when the fear of losing something outweighs the motivation to gain something. For example, avoiding a great investment opportunity because you're scared of losing money. To overcome this, focus on potential gains and not just the fear of loss. The decoy effect. The decoy effect occurs when a less appealing third option alters your preference between two others. For example, you might choose a medium-sized popcorn because it seems like a bargain compared to the large size. To avoid this, evaluate each option on its own to make the best choice for you. The halo effect. The halo effect happens when your perception of one quality of a person affects how you judge them in other areas. For example, you might think someone is trustworthy just because they dress well or are attractive. To avoid this, evaluate each situation and decision based on the actual facts. The availability heuristic. The availability heuristic is when you judge the likelihood of something happening based on how easily you can recall it. For instance, you might think plane crashes are common because you've seen news coverage of recent accidents. To counter this, Rely on actual statistics and data before forming judgments. Hindsight bias. Hindsight bias is the tendency to believe, after an event has happened, that you predicted the outcome, even though you didn't. For instance, claiming you knew it all along after a game ends. The Zygarnic effect. The Zygarnic effect explains why uncompleted tasks stay on your mind more than completed ones. For instance, constantly thinking about an unfinished report. Leverage this by planning your next day the night before. By making a plan, your subconscious works on it in the background, giving you clarity and ideas when you wake up. The bystander effect. The bystander effect happens when you're less likely to help someone in need if others are around. For example, not voicing your thoughts in a meeting because you assume someone else will. The planning fallacy. The planning fallacy is the tendency to underestimate how long tasks will take. For example, thinking you can clean your entire house in 1 hour. To avoid this, always allow extra time, helping you plan your day more efficiently and reduce stress. The Dunning-Kruger effect. The Dunning-Kruger effect describes how people with less knowledge or skill often overestimate their abilities. It's like reading a few investment books and thinking you're an expert. To avoid this, consult with experts, especially when it comes to making important decisions. Action bias. Action bias is the pressure to do something, even when doing nothing might be the wiser choice, like feeling you need to act during a slow period in business when waiting could be more beneficial. To overcome this, consider the value of patience. Sometimes, taking no action is the best decision. Illusion of averages. The illusion of averages is the false belief that average numbers always give the full picture. For instance, imagine riding in a car with 2 friends, then Elon Musk joins. Suddenly, the average wealth in the car is sky high, but it doesn't reflect reality for everyone. This is why, especially in business and investing, you should dig deeper beyond the averages.
Mass hysteria. When a group of people experience similar physical or emotional symptoms without a clear cause, it's often due to shared stress or fear rather than an actual illness. Worse than average effect. People tend to underestimate their abilities compared to others. Isolation effect. Items that stand out in a group are more likely to be remembered than those that blend in. Telescoping effect. Recent events may feel farther away, while distant events seem closer than they actually are. Self-reference effect. We remember information about ourselves better than information about others. Stroop effect. It's the delay in reaction time when the meaning of a word conflicts with how it's visually presented, like reading the word red written in blue. Naive realism. It's the belief that our view of the world is completely accurate, and those who disagree with us are mistaken or biased. Hawthorne effect. People often change their behavior, consciously or unconsciously, when they know they're being observed. Hedonic treadmill. Also known as hedonic adaptation, it refers to people's tendency to quickly return to a baseline level of happiness after major life changes, whether positive or negative. Generation effect. Information is remembered more effectively when a person actively generates it rather than simply reading it. Florence Nightingale effect. This describes a situation where a caregiver develops romantic feelings for their patient, even with minimal interaction beyond caregiving. Endowment effect. People tend to place a higher value on things they own than they would if they didn't own them. Birthday number effect. People unconsciously favor the numbers in their birth date over other numbers. This effect tends to be more noticeable with numbers greater than 12. Social facilitation. People tend to perform tasks better when they are in the presence of others compared to when they are alone. Assembly bonus effect. This effect occurs when a group produces results that are better than what individual members could achieve on their own. The improvement comes from how well the members' skills and efforts complement each other. Name-letter effect. Similar to the birthday number effect, this refers to people's preference for the letters in their own names over other letters. Dero effect. This occurs when acquiring one new possession triggers a cycle of buying more items, leading to an endless pattern of consumption. Einstellung. Sticking to old methods or habits can prevent someone from recognizing newer, simpler, or better solutions. DRM paradigm. This effect occurs when people are shown a list of related words and later falsely recall other related words that weren't actually on the list. Golem effect. When low expectations are set for someone, it can negatively impact their performance, fulfilling the initial prediction. Digital amnesia. This is the tendency to forget information that's easily accessible online. Hostile media effect. People with strong opinions on a subject often perceive neutral media coverage as being biased against their viewpoint. Hot-cold empathy gap. This is a bias where people underestimate how much their current emotional or physical state affects their thoughts and actions. Imposter syndrome. Despite evidence of their achievements, people experiencing imposter syndrome doubt their skills and fear being exposed as frauds. Lady Macbeth effect. After doing something morally wrong, people often feel a compulsion to cleanse themselves physically, symbolizing a desire to clear their conscience. Less is better effect. People often prefer a smaller option when it's judged alone, but this preference changes when it's compared with a larger alternative. Negativity effect. Negative events or information impact us more deeply than positive or neutral ones of the same intensity.